For this specific problem, my denominators are d minus 1 and d plus 2. So if I'm going to find a common denominator, since there is no simple multiplication that I can do to make these things the same, since there is nothing that I can multiply to make these two things the same, I have to just go ahead and multiply them together. Just like we saw here in our review problem, there was nothing I could multiply 3 by and nothing I could multiply 5 by that would make them the same, so I just multiplied them together. But because these are polynomials, when I go to multiply them, this is a box method problem. So we're going to have to do a little bit more with our multiplication. The good thing about these problems, you don't have to try and think about how to make them the same. There's no thought process behind it each time. You just know, oh, those are polynomials, I'm going to multiply them together. You don't have to find a least common multiple, you just need to multiply them. I have d times d is d squared. D times negative 1 is negative 1d. D times 2 is 2d. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. The diagonal is where you get your like terms. So my new denominator is d squared. I put the two like terms together to get positive 1d. And then minus 2 at the end. So d squared plus d minus 2. Unfortunately, because I did this to get my denominators, I have to do the same process to get my numerators also. Remember, we talked about earlier rules of fractions. Whatever you do to the denominator, you also do to the numerator. If I took d minus 1 and multiplied it with d plus 2, I have to do the same thing on the top. Whatever you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. If I took this d plus 2 and multiplied it with d minus 1, I have to do the same thing on the top. So, on the top, this is a distributive property problem. 3 times d is 3d. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times d is 2d. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So just to recap real quick before we combine anything. Because my denominators are polynomials, I use box method to multiply them together. Whatever I did to the bottom, I do to the top. So I'm multiplying the 3 that was there with the other denominator. I'm multiplying the 2 that was here with the other denominator to get all these new pieces. Please keep in mind and be careful, this is a subtraction problem. So as I combine my like terms, knowing that my denominator is now d squared plus d minus 2, I have 3d minus 2d, which is 1d. I also have 6, and pay close attention to this part, minus negative 2. What's minus negative the same as? Adding. So I'm actually doing 6 plus 2 to get positive 8. This will be my final answer. Some people ask, well, don't I need to factor this? Can't I do X method on the bottom? Don't waste your time yet. Look at where this came from. Didn't we get this new denominator by multiplying these two things? If I factored it, I would just get these two things. Do either of those match my new numerator? No.